5 years ago, we bought this house on a busy highway with a baby, a dog, and no fence. Today, it's our homestead. Here's how it all started. Welcome back to Good Neighbors Homestead. Wes and I have lived here for almost 5 years now. Before this, we were in an apartment, dreaming about what we wanted for our family. We knew we didn't want to live in town, and we wanted enough space to grow our family, let the kids play, and slowly work toward a more self-sufficient homestead-style life, but not so much land that we'd be overwhelmed trying to keep up with it. I first toured the house with our daughter before she was even a year old, and right away it felt like a hidden gem. The 1.25 acre lot had space for chickens, room for kids to play, and even a fenced-in garden already there. The house itself had good bones. It just needed some love. And by love, I mean every room was beige. Different shades of beige. So much beige. If this had been on Fixer Upper, it would have been called 50 Shades of Beige. The biggest concern was that the house sits on a major highway and didn't have a fence, which is a pretty big deal when you have a baby and a dog. I called Wes after the showing, and even with those concerns, we felt like the potential outweighed the drawbacks. The market was moving fast, so we put in an offer. Wes saw it the next day and felt the same way. We closed in June, and since we had to be out of our apartment by August, things moved fast. I spent nights after work painting, and with a lot of help from friends and family, we moved in July, on one of the hottest, most humid days I can remember. Since then, we've slowly made it our own, and the very first project we knew we had to tackle was the fence. All of the projects that you're seeing going across the screen are things that we have had to figure out how to do since moving into this house. This is our first home, so all of these things were things that we had never done before. Wes had never built a fence, so he had to do a ton of research into the style, how to make sure it was going to be secure and not fall over after 1 year. The skills with electrical stuff and being able to replace ceiling fans, which we had never done before. The skills with plumbing and being able to put in a dishwasher that was not originally there, or plumb in an entire bathroom, as you're seeing here, that didn't even exist. The ability to put up a wall that wasn't there to begin with. Doing drywalling. All of these things were skills that we didn't have before, but because of our desire to have our homestead and really make this what we wanted it to be, we had to do the research and the work to figure out how, and then we actually had to do the physical work of doing the projects. There has been a few of the projects or pieces of the projects that we have brought in other people to help with. My dad helped Wes replace some of the basement windows. One of my brothers helped Wes do some of the drywalling in the basement. And Wes learned how to do plumbing from his grandpa, who was a master plumber for 40 years. All of these things that we've learned, some of them were from people with more skills than us, but a lot of them were learning through doing and researching ahead of time to figure out what's the best way to do this so that we're ending up with a good outcome without spending an arm and a leg or having to redo the projects later. Now, in spite of all the projects that we've been able to get done, we do still have other projects that are sitting there waiting for us. We have a main floor bathroom that needs to be completely renovated. We would like to get new kitchen counters and a backsplash to finish out the kitchen, potentially replacing one of the cabinets. We need to do garage organization. I would like some raised garden beds and a greenhouse. We've just got a few things that we still want to get done, but it's been really gratifying just looking back on all of the things that we have been able to accomplish and all of the things that we have learned. Through doing all of these projects, we've learned some valuable lessons. Lesson number 1, you can do more than you think.
When we bought this house, I had very little experience doing a lot of the things we ended up doing. I'd never built a fence before, never put up drywall.
Didn't really ever do electrical work. No woodworking.
So it was an adventure. Every project was an adventure and a chance to learn something new. And slowly but surely, as we did them, we learned, and they got better and easier and faster.
We got smarter.
But yeah, the biggest thing is just having that confidence to know that you can do a lot of this stuff.
Lesson number 2, it will probably cost more than you think.
Yes, especially early. If you've never done renovation projects or you've never done anything like that, it's very difficult to accurately estimate how much you're going to need for supplies. And it just felt like for all of our projects, at least every time we did something, we were needing more screws, or we didn't have quite enough wood, or we needed more something. But again, as we did more and more projects, we got better at it. And the last couple of projects have only required, I think we're averaging about 1 extra trip to the hardware store, which we're down from about 5. So that's doing pretty good.
Way better. It only took 5 years. Lesson number 3, sometimes it does require the professionals.
Yeah, especially if you're working with anything dangerous. So electrical work, anything with gas can be very dangerous if it's not done well. So if at any point it's something that you're not comfortable with, or it's anything involving actually moving wires around, when it comes to electrical work, replacing outlets, sometimes replacing fans, switches, lights can be relatively straightforward. Not always, but relatively straightforward. But anytime you're going to have to move wires or you're changing circuits, there's just a lot more that goes into that. And generally a good idea to consult an electrician. And I would say the same thing goes for gas, just because, again, if you're moving gas lines, that can have really, really, really bad repercussions if it's not done well.
Lesson number 4, flexibility is key.
Especially when you have an uncooperative basement.
Oh, I learned this one the hard way. Redesigned my thought for what to do with that built-in down there 3 times in about 2 hours. It was the most frustrating 2 hours of my life, because every layer of demo that I did, I found a barrier to my design, and so I had to redo it. And then I did more demo and found another problem. And I'm glad we ended up with what we did, but...
Top tip, demo can be very therapeutic when you're dealing with frustrations.
Correct.
Lesson number 5, trying to do home renovation projects can be tricky if you have small infants. They don't like to cooperate, they make terrible workplace assistants, and they generally just kind of complicate the situation. So renovation and projects best saved until they're out of that infant stage.
Lesson number 6, it's not always that easy. This one is definitely a lesson that I had to learn the hard way.
5 most dangerous words in the English language. How hard could it be?
Yeah. I am very guilty of looking at something and going, oh, it can't be that hard. No, it can. There's usually at least one complicating factor to every project that I have suggested. And sometimes we've been able to work through them. Mm-hmm. Other times we've opted to not even do the project because it was too big of a complication.
Because the last thing you want to do is get partway into a project and then find out you run across something that you're not comfortable with or overcoming, because that can really be a big complicating factor.
Well, and now you can't undo what you've done as far as whatever you've demolished or how far you've gotten. So now you're going to have to pay somebody else to come in and finish up the project because they have the right expertise, the right tools, and now you're spending even more money. Lesson number 7, old houses have interesting wrinkles.
Is that the word we're going with?
Yes.
Okay. Interesting.
Interesting. Our house is 90 years old and has gone through multiple owners and a very colorful history. And so when we got it, we started peeling back some of those layers and found some very interesting problems to overcome.
Yes, especially with old houses, because building codes have changed over time. And so things that were done, sometimes renovations or projects or changes that were made 20, 30, 40 years ago are going to have to really be changed and updated because they're not up to modern codes and modern specifications. Being prepared for, you never know what you're going to find when you start any of these projects and you start digging behind walls. You never know what's back there.
Lesson number 8, it's going to be a lot of work, so pace yourself. We got very ambitious the first couple of years that we lived here and had at least one pretty extensive project going on, if not several at the same time. And after the first couple of years of basically year-round projects and renovations, we were getting burnt out.
Yeah, big time. You know, especially if you're dealing with, you got family and you're still working, it can be a lot, you know. And I think a lot of the projects ended up probably taking longer than they needed to. I think because we weren't giving ourselves adequate time to kind of rest and decompress in between. And we were just kind of getting burnt out, and it was harder to kind of stay motivated and on task.
Yeah, I remember multiple nights during the week that I would work all day, he would leave for work, and I would put our daughter to bed, and then I would go out to the garage and stain pickets for several hours before finally coming in and stumbling into bed. We weren't working at a good pace because we didn't have the energy to, so like he said, it probably ended up making some of the projects take a little bit longer. This house and this homestead has been a long process for us, but it has been worth every minute. We still have a lot of projects that we want to complete. If you're in a similar situation, what are some lessons that you learned? Or if you are currently working through a project, what are some things that you are struggling with? Let us know in the comments below. Thanks for joining us here at Good Neighbors Homestead, and we'll see you again. Is 90 years old. Really?
Really? And a cat.
Yeah, but the cat doesn't matter with the fence.
I just said you said a baby, a dog, and no offense that there's a cat like in the shot. It's gonna, people are gonna be like, where'd the cat come from? Did he come with the house? With the baby, a dog, and one handy capable cat.
Yep.